Welcome to Best Bets with the Field of 68. It is Wednesday, November 17th, and the bullpen has been called. They're bringing a pick and pop duo off the bench from Sleepers Media to fill in for the GOATs of betting online, Three-Man Weave, who could not make it today. Instead, you've got myself. My name is Greg Waddell, like I said, from Sleepers Media, and my good friend and counterpart, Carter Elliott, who will take you through all the lines today and give you some plays that we like. Cart, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day, beautiful slate today, and I'm honored to be here, honestly. I mean, I watch this every day. Three-Man Weave's been giving out winners, so we're hoping to fill those shoes a little bit, and trust me, we got y'all. We got the research, we got the heart, we got the will, we got the bets. We got y'all.
And it's a pretty solid slate. I wouldn't call it a good slate after yesterday, which was like a very good midweek slate. Today is a little bit underwhelming to me, but you still got some Gavitt games, Big East, Big Ten matchups. You still got some high power top 10, top 15 types that are either coming off a loss and need to prove something or have some intriguing matchups today. So we'll break it all down. We have 8 games for you. And shout out to the chat mob. As always, we're going to try to do our best due diligence, just like Three-Man Weave does, to answer any questions people have throughout the show. So, Cart, let's start with your team, or I guess you could say our team, as we do host Unscripted, the Michigan State show on Field of 68. Michigan State at Butler in Hinkle Fieldhouse, a true road game. The line is up to Michigan State -3 through our friends at BetRivers.com. What are your thoughts and feelings heading into this game, and do you like anything from a betting perspective?
Yeah, well, being a Michigan State fan, I do have a little bit of skin in this game. But in all honesty, I do like Michigan State in this game. I think that for Butler, this is their first big game of the year. Michigan State had their big first game already in the Champions Classic against Kansas. There were obviously some jitters in that game, obviously some turnover troubles for Michigan State. But I think now after that big game, they can kind of settle in. There's not going to be a big game this year that's really going to scare them. Hinkle Fieldhouse is a really good environment to play in for Butler, but also there's going to be some issues on this Butler side. They're getting their point guard back in Thompson, but sometimes that's not always the greatest thing. I mean, you don't have your point guard for 3 games of the year. You've been playing without him, and now you insert him back into the lineup. That doesn't always mean that something's just going to go extremely smooth and everything is just going to be okay to integrate him back into the lineup. So I think Michigan State is a better team on paper in this game. And I think this line is only close because it's at home and at Hinkle Fieldhouse. But I do like Michigan State in this game with the line at 3.
So I'm on the opposite side of you here, and I doubt you're surprised by that. But here's my thoughts. First of all, Michigan State in their last 10 non-home games with this roster, which is basically the same roster they had last year, minus Aaron Henry plus Max Christie, they're 1-9 in their last 10 games that are not at the Breslin Center. Butler has pretty good guards. Like, if I'm looking at the rosters here, I think I'm taking Butler's backcourt. I like Chuck Harris. I like Bolden. Jaden Taylor, to me, is a freshman who's going to be a breakout star. To me, if you're going to have a massive advantage in this game against Butler, it would be in the front court, which is where I have all the questions for Michigan State still. We're not getting anything out of the 4, and Marcus Bingham is Marcus Bingham, as we've said at length. So to me, this is a pretty good matchup for Butler. The fact that they're getting points at home feels a little off. If this was a pick 'em, maybe you could talk me into Michigan State, but I'm sort of teasing myself by trying to stay away from Butler +3 right now. But as it keeps jumping up from 2.5 to 3, I think I might have to sprinkle on Butler a little bit.
I think you're letting the Kamar Baldwin hangover hit you a little bit with the love for these Butler guards. There are good guards, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if these guys are just absolute just world beaters. And you didn't even mention their guard in Thompson, who's coming back from suspension. So, I mean, yeah, they do have some pieces. I like Ty Gross off the bench. He's a Michigan kid. He transferred from Eastern Michigan. I like him a lot. I think he'll start playing more. He's coming back from an injury. But all in all, I think that I don't want to overthink this game and talk myself into Butler being what they aren't. I think they're a solid team. And also an underlying factor in this is Michigan State has the weight of the Big Ten on their goddamn shoulders right now, because the Big East is giving us the absolute work in these Gavitt games. So it's time for us to tighten up. Michigan State, we're going to get the leashes out. We're going to dog walk the Butler Bulldogs, as I like to always say. Michigan State -3 is a go, Gregory.
Butler shooting 40% from three this season. Michigan State shooting 28% from three. I don't know. I'm just saying there's not a ton that I love based on how Michigan State's played so far. We'll see. I think they would be bucking the trend if they do get a road win tonight rather than continuing the trend. So we'll see. For now, I'm staying away. You're all over Michigan State -3. Let's move to the second game on our list. Northern Iowa plus 12.5 at Arkansas. Now, I texted you late last night on one side of this line, and you swung me to the other within 12 hours. So I want to give you kudos for that. But why don't you tell the people where you're at on this line?
Yeah, I just think that a lot of the Northern Iowa hype is just going to have to die down. I mean, there was a lot of talk about them coming into this season in the mid-major teams and the rankings, getting a player like AJ Green back, bringing back a lot of pieces from last year's team. They were probably a betting favorite in most of these games that they just had. But I think it's time to really come to grips with the fact that AJ Green, unfortunately, is not going to be the player that he used to be. I mean, when you have an injury like a hip injury, that's a major injury in any sport, in basketball especially, and that can seriously affect you. And though you want to bet on this Northern Iowa team and take them when they're getting points as an underdog, I mean, they haven't even cracked 60 points yet against teams like Nichols and Vermont. What are they going to do against an Arkansas team that has a really good defense, and you have players like Devo Davis? I mean, if they can't crack 60 against those teams and win those games that they should win, I don't really know what they're going to do against the Arkansas team. I think that Arkansas is clearly the better team, and they're going to run away with this one, I think.
You're also a very big Chris Lykes stan. Do you want to mention any of that?
Yeah, I got a soft spot in my heart for high volume guards with low percentages. It always just gets me going in the basketball world.
Well, I have a soft spot for 7'3" centers that shoot 50% from three and average 3 blocks a game, which is Connor Vanover. I did not love this Arkansas team on paper heading into the season, which is why I wanted to talk myself into Northern Iowa, because I was very open about my belief that Northern Iowa would be one of the best mid-major teams in the country, adding AJ Green back. It just hasn't been the case. Like you said, 14-point loss to Vermont, 4-point loss to Nichols. They're shooting 20% from the three so far this season, 37% effective field goal percentage. That's really, really bad. Arkansas, on the other hand, you have to go all the way back to 3 seasons ago for the last time that Arkansas didn't win a non-conference game by 10 or more points. I mean, just under Muss, this program's been firing on all cylinders and taking care of teams that don't have the talent that they do in the non-conference. So I was swung. Originally, I'm like 12.5 points for a Northern Iowa team I really like. That's a lot, but I really think that Arkansas ends up running away from this game. And
I told you this last night, G. I liked it at 14.5, to be honest, because I think that's what it might have opened at. So at 12.5, I love it.
Really it got down to 12.5, and then I've seen it at 13.5 as well. So keep an eye on that one, but the further down it goes, give me Arkansas. Let's move to another Big Ten game. Indiana at home, Assembly Hall, against a St. John's team who has some players. Cart, what do you make of this one?
Yeah, I think this is a perfect opportunity to bet on a team like St. John's and kind of bring in a fade Indiana lifestyle, which I think the Sleepers media kind of is sort of adjusting to, because we're not the biggest Mike Woodson fans. Look, St. John's has one of the best players in the country in Champaign. I mean, he's an All-American candidate. He's off to a hot start this year. He was averaging 20 last year. He's already averaging 20 this year. You have players like Posh Alexander. They get after it. They get up in you. I really like this St. John's team. And I think that Indiana is the type of team that could really struggle with this type of team, getting up in them, maybe making them play at a faster pace than they want to play. And so far with this Indiana team, I don't know, you can maybe talk me out of it, but I don't see really much change from last year. They added some new players, but I still think they're playing the same level of hoop that they were last year. They rely way too much on Trace Jackson Davis, I think. I don't really see the other guys stepping up at this point of the year. So I like St. John's with the points in this one at +5.
Okay, we found one that we agree on, and I haven't bet it yet, but I'm leaning that way. And if the line keeps creeping upward for St. John's, I'm going to jump all over it. I think I like it enough to put a bet down at +5, though. I just don't trust this Indiana roster. Like, I trust TJD. He's going to fill it up. He's going to put up numbers, but a lot of times they're empty numbers. And, you know, they bring in Xavier Johnson, who's kind of supposed to be the guy in that backcourt. To me, he's looked solid so far. He hasn't been great. And I think everybody else besides those two guys on this Indiana roster are minus players at a Big Ten level. They just don't have a lot. And St. John's, 48% from three this season so far. They are number one in the country in effective field goal percentage through this point in the season. This is a team that can score, and this is a team that will keep up the pace with Indiana if Indiana's scoring well. The problem is I don't trust Indiana to score consistently enough to actually cover 5 points.
I also don't think that Indiana will score consistently enough throughout the year until they learn to play Trace Jackson Davis by himself and just bring Race Thompson off the goddamn bench. I'm so sick of watching those two play together. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Race Johnson is holding it down for like the really, really mediocre power forward fourth-year guy a la Brandon Johns. Just naming a couple names out here. Like maybe replace that guy with someone a little more talented.
Let the hurt go, Gregory. Let it go.
Yeah, let the hurt go. Do you have anything on over/under for this game? It's 151 points, which off just first glance, even though St. John's has really been hooping, that seems pretty high.
Yeah, that seems too high for me. Just with in a game versus Indiana, I don't know if I can touch that number. If I did, I would go the under on it, even though St. John's does play a high pace. Indiana, they're not a team that's going to get, out of their offensive system. They're going to try to play as slow as possible, I think. So St. John's might score enough points, but I don't think Indiana is going to score enough to get you over that mark.
Do you like St. John's money line?
I actually do like St. John's money line. I don't think this Indiana team has really impressed up until this point this year. I mean, they had a dogfight with an Eastern Michigan team at home to start the year, and I'm a Michigan native. Eastern Michigan is not that good of a basketball team. Not in any way, shape, or form that they should be in a game with Indiana. And they ran away in their second game against a no-name opponent. But, this is going to be their first real test of the year, I think. And I think they're going to get caught off guard a little bit. And there's a very good chance that they win this game.
And Mike Woodson might be asleep at the wheel also. Let's just throw that out there. All right, let's move to another Big Ten game, and then we'll get to some questions in the chat. Maryland at home against George Mason. Maryland has been a tale of two halves pretty much every game this season so far. Somehow they haven't lost. It's a miracle because they could have easily lost any of the games they've played so far. George Mason is solid. They're not a cupcake. This line right now is single digits. It's Maryland minus 9.5, which to me is a little weird because one of these games, Maryland's just going to play well and run away with it.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I first saw this game, before I even saw the line, I was like, okay, if I can get George Mason in like double digits, like let's say 12.5, 11.5, something like that, I would really like that. I mean, like you said, Maryland has not impressed so far this year. They have won their games, credit to them. You got to end up winning games, but they've had a lot of slow starts this year, a lot of close games. And I think that with this George Mason team, they have enough talent where if you do get off to a slow start, that they can punish you and you might not be able to get back in that game. So if the slow start thing continues through these games and continues in this George Mason game, I think there's some value in getting George Mason with the points. I mean, you have Josh Aduro, who is a baller. I like the transfers from Colorado, Deshaun Swartz as well. This team has some talent. We like Kim English. But then again, you mentioned that Maryland might run away with one of these games. So it scares me a little bit when it's at 9.5. If I'm leaning a certain way, I think I would lean George Mason 9.5, but this is more of a stay away for me, I think.
Yeah, it's a stay away for me as well. I think if you think that George Mason can cover 9.5, I think the more creative way to play this would be to sprinkle a little bit money line. There's really good value there. Like if you think this is going to be a 1 to 2 possession game or they're going to comfortably cover 9, why not just throw some money and see if it's close late and maybe you can hedge your bet at that point. But to me, I do think Maryland is just going to play well at some point. I kind of said that about Ohio State the other day. They had 2 games where they really struggled. That line, I forget who they were playing now, but it was like minus 16 earlier this week. And everybody was like, we got to jump all over 16 points against Ohio State right now. And I'm like, well, one of these games, they're just going to play really well. And then they ended up winning that by 30. I don't know if that's tonight for Maryland, but I think it's coming. Fats Russell has played George Mason 4 times in his career. He's 16 for 48 from the floor in those 4 games, 33%. Now, that's not notable. It's just empty numbers because Fats Russell has shot 33% against like everyone for his career. But I just want to throw that out there. I don't know. I feel like I want to talk myself into George Mason, but like you said, I'm staying away.
I was just gonna say, you just described Fats Russell's stats like those have ever changed throughout his whole career. So basically, Fats Russell was Fat Russell's, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right,
good.
Cart, let's go to some questions from the chat. You want to take us through some of these?
Yeah, let's see here. Okay. We have Boston College, Rhode Island thoughts. Do we want to get to that from Ryan Smith?
Yeah, let's say that one's coming. That one's coming near the end of the show. That's 7th out of our 8 in order.
Okay. We also have a question about Toledo, Oakland, which I know is going to come up later as well. So it's like you guys were in our Google Doc and knew what games we were going to talk about.
You got more?
No, go ahead. You're good.
I got a couple here. We got Dion Hill Ford. When is Carter finally getting a haircut for his wedding?
I'm getting a haircut tomorrow morning, actually. So getting all this, getting all that done. So I will have a haircut. I might actually do one of these shows hatless one time. Who knows?
And then we've got Kedrick Washington. Can UConn finish top 10? Sorry, producer Rob Doster. No, they cannot.
Did he actually ask that?
Somebody asked that, yeah. And one more Michigan State related question. Tyson Walker over under 10 points tonight.
Over.
Oh, come on. Hammer that under.
What?
Hammer that under.
What?
I think this is Hogarth's job, and I think he takes it tonight. And I think that's part of why I like Butler +3 tonight.
Come on, man.
I'm out on Tyson Walker right now. We can save this more for unscripted, but he got to show me something, dude.
Okay. Obviously, he's got to pick it up, but one of these games he will. And it might be tonight in the field, in the Hinkle Magic.
We can see. We shall hope. Daniel, VCU Vandy, that one's also coming up. So let's just get right into the second half of the 8 games that we like today. Let's start with NC State against Oklahoma State. This is a neutral site game at Mohegan Sun. The over-under is 137.5 that I have, and the line right now is Oklahoma State -3. Cart, preseason, when the news came down that Oklahoma State was not going to be eligible for the NCAA tournament, we were on opposite sides of this. I was like, let's look to fade Oklahoma State. I think their mentality is just going to hit the gutter. They're going to feel like they've got nothing to play for. You, on the other hand, were like, let's jump all over them. They're going to be motivated to come out and make a statement. Have your thoughts changed through the early season with that?
No, I don't think so. I still think from what I've seen, this team plays hard. They lost to Oakland, which I just think was just an ugly game and probably just a well-coached and well-played game by Oakland. But this NC State team, I think, is really, really lacking talent. Their big man Bates is out for the year. I think he was one of their better players. I didn't see the final score of the game last night, but they were struggling for most of the game, I think, against a Central Connecticut State, I believe it was. I'm not a fan of this NC State team. I just don't really think they have the talent. So just a talent basis, I think I would lean Oklahoma State -3 in this game. I'd be interested to know your thoughts on it because I really can't. I mean, I knew that Bates was the guy kind of at NC State, at least defensively, he made that team go. I don't really know who that guy is for this team.
Yeah, I don't either. I think NC State has a lot more questions than they do answers at this point. And at least Oklahoma State knows who they want to be, even if they're not having success. Like, they have a pretty clear identity based on the guys they returned from last season. I don't know. I'm staying away from Oklahoma State for the inevitable future. Like, I just don't want to bet on this team, either on or against them. Like, I think there's too much motivational stuff at play with the fact that they have nothing to play for, and any given night that can result in a blowout win or a blowout loss. I also don't know how talented I really think they are. Like, I don't think they're a top 4 team in the Big 12. I know a couple people in the know were very high on them, thinking they could be like sneaky Big 12 contenders. I never saw it that way. I feel like they're more like a bubble team than anything. If this was a home game, maybe it swings me towards Oklahoma State, but on a neutral site, I don't see much from a value perspective to bet here.
But what about fade the ACC? I feel like that's been extremely profitable this year so far.
Yeah, I mean, you are a big proponent of fading conferences.
Oh, damn, that's bad now. Because when I bring up fading conferences, that means UCLA goes on playing game runs.
I mean, you literally fade the Pac-12, and like 4 Pac-12 teams went on tourney runs.
No, all right, no, look, but the ACC, real like outside of the top 2, top 3, top 4 teams is abysmal. And I think that they're really riding off the whole ACC namesake thing. I don't think this NC State line should be that close, to be honest. I really don't think it should be.
Interesting. So you're on Oklahoma State and you're officially betting them on your card?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I can respect that play. You might have talked me into it. I'm still staying away for now, though. Let's move to VCU against Vanderbilt. This is a home game for Vanderbilt. And I believe it's VCU plus 4.5 right now. This is a VCU team that has really struggled this season, Carter. They're coming off a 14-point loss to Wagner. That game was 58-44. Offensively, they're just not doing much of anything well right now. Vanderbilt has Scottie Pippen averaging 23 points a game right now. This line has moved. I believe it opened at 6.5 or 7, and it's all the way down to 4.5. What do you make of this one?
I mean, you want to bet on a team like VCU just because of what they've done in the past, basically everything they're made up of as a team. But this year, it just has not looked that way. I mean, that loss to Wagner is bad, like really, really bad. And like you mentioned, too, that game wasn't close. Wagner dominated that game. They were lucky to even finish that close to him, to be honest. This Vanderbilt team is not one that just absolutely blows me out of the water. I mean, Scottie Pippen Jr. is preseason SEC Player of the Year candidate, preseason, first team all SEC guy. And he can hoop. He's got game for sure. But I just don't know if I really want to bet on Vanderbilt to cover in this game. I think that it's a game that maybe VCU can kind of get up for and, redeem themselves. And I don't think that Vanderbilt's good enough of a team to just assert their dominance over a team that's not as good as them.
Yeah, laying points with Vanderbilt just feels very dicey.
It doesn't matter. Like the principle of laying points with Vanderbilt is just not one that I can get behind. I can't.
Yeah, it's very gross. I have a different spin on a play here that I think I will be betting. I like the under. It's at 133 right now. But you spoke to VCU struggles in that Wagner game. That total was 102 points in that game. Against St. Peter's, VCU won, but the total in that game was only 111 points. I mean, right now, their offense is just putrid. I think if you were to consider betting VCU to cover this game, it's probably going under. Like, I think that game is in the low 60s if VCU keeps this close. And even if Vanderbilt does cover, like, I think there's a really good chance VCU just puts up 50 points again. So I'll take the under here. Also, Vanderbilt really has three guys that are prolific scorers, and then a bunch of nobody else's. VCU's entire team is 6'4" to 6'9", which just so happens to be like the frame of Vanderbilt's three scorers. So I feel like defensively VCU is going to be able to hang in this, but 4.5 is a little bit of a weird number. Even if VCU was hanging in it, Vanderbilt could easily backdoor cover at that line. So I'll take the under and be happy with that.
It's Vanderbilt. Like, I know everyone comes here for some great analysis and like some good stats and research and all these numbers, but it's at the end of the day, it's Vanderbilt basketball. just know that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Boston College +6 at Rhode Island. This is a game, Carter, a battle of one of my favorite things in college basketball. A couple of siblings on both sides. We've got the Mitchell brothers in Rhode Island holding down the front court. We've got the Langford brothers at Boston College, who happen to be their two leading scorers. 6 points to Boston College feels like a lot against a Rhode Island program that I historically love to fade. However, I don't know if I loved fading them because of Fats Russell or if because of other things with the Rhode Island basketball program.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I think it was more of a Fats Russell thing fading for me, but I think this carryover still lasts for this Rhode Island team. I think this is a team that, Coach Grant with Boston College, I think he's going to try to do some things there. He's trying to kind of instill a culture and still like a new face of Boston College. And I just don't think that Rhode Island is, that much better of a team than Boston College. I think they are the better team, but 6 just seems like a lot in a game where I feel like you got two teams that are going to play extremely hard and go at each other. I think this could be easily a one possession game, with under 4 minutes left, and Boston College could easily cover. I think I would stay away from this game, but if I'm leaning one way, I'm leaning towards Boston College +6. I'm not really convinced that Rhode Island is a team that could, run away with this game.
Yeah, I kind of like we said with Vanderbilt, are you really going to lay a touchdown basically with Rhode Island? That just feels grimy. I think Mekhi Ashton Langford is the best player in this game. And I think honestly, like this should be closer to a pick 'em based on early season results. Boston College has won 3 games pretty comfortably at this point. So I'll take the 6 points. I am going to sprinkle on that one. It's on my card, but definitely not my strongest play of the day. Just something out of principle that I feel I need to do against a Rhode Island team that I really don't trust. All right, let's move to the last game of our 8 today. This is a team who you've been a vocal proponent of this season. You're coming off a chance to have a little conversation with head coach Greg Campy over on the Field of 68 after dark. Oakland is playing host to Toledo. Oakland is a 2-point favorite right now. I believe the money line is at minus 150 and the over under is at 146. What are your thoughts on this one?
I still love this Oakland team. I think they got pieces, man. Jalen Moore is one of the best point guards in the country. I love Jamal Cain. I think Jamal Cain is a NBA level talent type player, especially measurable wise. He does everything right, plays extremely hard. He can shoot the ball. He's a monster on the glass, had 15 rebounds against a Big 12 team in Oklahoma State who has a lot of size. And I just think that they, are riding off the high right now. And yeah, maybe it's a letdown point, but I don't really think it's that big of a letdown opportunity for them against this Toledo team, who I think they are better than on paper. So, I'm going to keep on riding the hot hand. Oakland has won me a lot of money up until this point this year, and until there's absolutely a line that I'm just like I got to stay away from, I will. But Oakland -2, I'm going to be all over that.
Okay, I'm interested and surprised in your answer there. I didn't think you were going to continue riding Oakland. I thought you were going to jump ship at the right time, basically cash in your chips after a good start to the season of backing Oakland.
Now, why would I ever do that?
Because I don't think their talent is what you say it is. Like, I think these are guys that we've watched growing up a little bit, the Michigander connections a little bit that like we want to root for. But do we really think the players you named are really that good?
I actually think Jamal Cain is really good.
Okay. I think Jamal Cain's solid. Like, he's not like averaging 20 points for Oakland right now.
He'd bust your ass.
He would, for sure. I do have one really strong play here. It's actually my best bet of the day. I'm taking the under 146 points in this game. Going through Oakland's schedule so far, West Virginia and Oklahoma State, 2 teams that play relatively fast tempos that have talent offensively. Those games were grinds, Carter. They were 113-point total in the West Virginia game, 111-point total in the Oklahoma State game. I think that this Oakland team has sort of taken on an identity of a team that has to scratch and claw because the guys you just named are not necessarily guys that will score 20 points any given game. And I think they know that. Toledo, on the other hand, 130-point total in their game against Valpo. Still 16 points off from 146. They're the only game either of these teams has been involved in that went over 146 was Toledo against Detroit. And I don't think Detroit has any interest in guarding anybody. So I love the under here. I feel like that's honestly like 10 to 20 points off. I think, if Oakland does win this game, I think it's probably in the 60s. And if they lose it, Toledo does have the firepower to get into like 75, 80, but I think it could end up being a blowout where Oakland is still at 60 and Toledo's in the 70s.
All right. I do have some questions in the chat here that I have neglected a little bit. So let me get to those. Got to be better at the chat. Let's see. Thoughts on Texas? I believe they are -21 against Northern Colorado. Any thoughts on that one, G?
So I was actually bought into Northern Colorado after watching them in that little preseason tournament that they played. You're
drinking on the Sean Paul Kool-Aid, ain't you?
Look, they were a really fun team offensively. Like, they came out and beat Pacific, then they beat Hawaii. They blew out Colorado College, which means nothing to me. But the problem here is, along my way of building up belief in Northern Colorado, they lost an overtime game by 8 points to a non-Division I opponent. So I can't feel good betting them, but the spread feels too high to me. I feel like this might be a game Texas sleepwalks a little bit. I feel like it's too high.
You don't think it's a game coming off that Gonzaga game where you're like, all right, everyone's talking about Texas isn't that good. and they send a message the game's not. I actually believe it's a neutral site game, but it's in Texas.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't trust Texas right now, to be honest. Like, I think obviously they're good enough to blow out bad teams. My problem is I don't know that I think Northern Colorado is a horrible team. I think they're an okay team and they could hang around. Like, they have the offensive firepower to just not get run out the building by a Texas team who doesn't really have their identity figured out offensively right now. Also, I just want to throw this out there. Texas's front court stinks to me. I think they have a horrible front court.
I think they don't play their best front court players.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Trey Mitchell, I think, is their best front court player.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Texas just falls under this umbrella of teams that I would stay away from at this point of the year, only because they're a team that I think is not going to be playing their best basketball until they find their identity. So you have a team like, let's say, for example, Kentucky. I think that once Kentucky finds their actual identity as a team, they're going to be one of the most dangerous teams in the country, and no one's going to want to play them come SEC play, and no one's going to want to play them come March. I think the same goes for this Texas team. You got a bunch of guys who played different roles at their last school, and now they're all playing together. And last game against Gonzaga, every single possession, I felt like it was an overpass. Like, sometimes just you got to get a shot up. Like, overpassing is bad offense sometimes. You know, despite what some coaches might say, you don't want to overpass. You got to score the damn ball. So they're one of the teams that I think that they're not going to figure it out just yet. But, you know, just our luck, you would say that Northern Colorado would cover, and God forbid Texas figures it out tonight and wins by 30.
For those watching at home, that monologue about overpassing being bad is coming from a guy who does not like to pass the ball. So
are you
just
kidding
know that.
me?
Just know that. Cart, we got one more question here from James. Any money line games you like tonight? I'll just rattle through a couple that we already sort of hit on. I like St. John's money line at Indiana. I just think that game should be a pick 'em and it's worth sprinkling. I also mentioned if you're going to take George Mason to cover, you might as well throw a little bit on money line against Maryland. And then out of principle, I have one we didn't talk about. I will be betting against Stanford on the money line every single game this season. And I feel very confident that I will make more money doing that than I would doing anything.
Have we already established a team we are betting against going through the whole year?
Yes. I think Stanford stinks, dude. Like, they're very lucky they have Harrison Ingram. And when he plays good for 20 minutes, that's enough to have them pull away from absolutely mediocre teams. But like, any given night, Stanford's down 10 to like a team in the 300s on Ken Pom at half right now.
I don't get why Stanford also can't get like they get these big recruits and McDonald's All-Americans. Why don't you get like 2 or 3 more with them, or like a couple of 4-stars to go with them instead of leaving them out there to die, basically. Get Zaire Williams.
You have a Stanford offer. Are you busting through the doors to go to Stanford?
Yeah.
I don't know that I am.
Yeah, it's a prestigious academic institution.
Yeah.
The campus is beautiful. The colors are very good. I like that little tree mascot they got. I think it's a great experience.
You are a big fan of the tree mascot.
No, I'm a big fan of academic institutions. I went to Albion College, which is referred to as the Harvard of the Midwest in some circles.
Oh, sure. All right, let's wrap this up. We're a couple minutes over. Give the people at home your final rallying cry heading into Michigan State Butler, Cart.
Hey, folks, it's time. All right. The dogs are locked in, man. All right. We got to pick it up for the Big Ten. We got to hold it down because other teams that wear maize and blue can't hold it down. So it's time for us to hold it down. Butler is not who you think they are. Brad Stevens isn't walking through that door. Kamal Baldwin is not walking through that door. Spartan Dogs are going to win this one by 6 to 7+ points. Feel pretty confident Michigan State -3. Carter's first best bet, and it will hit. I promise you. Fill your pockets, buy yourself something nice.
To answer James's question again, one other money line that I like tonight. I like Butler money line. I'll just throw that out there. Cart, should we go the extra mile and do a little on-camera bet? We've done this before, and you know what the record is when you and I oppose each other on bets. So, you want to go there?
Yeah. What are you thinking?
We did running last time. I don't know. We can come up with something later. Some sort of horrible punishment.
Okay. Loser has to run a 5K on Sleepers Media IG Live.
Okay. Deal.
All right. Deal.
Shake.
You got Butler, right?
I got Butler money line. Yeah. And I will be in Hinkle tonight reporting live.
Michigan State money line. Shake. Virtual.
Shake. All right. Good luck to you, my friend. Hopefully you get your first win against me in a head-to-head bet. This was Best Bets with the Field of 68. Please like, subscribe, all of the Field of 68's channels, After Dark, Best Bets, etc. You can find us on the Field of 68 doing Unscripted, the Michigan State basketball show. Thank you to BetRivers, our presenting sponsor. Everybody, I have one chance to say this on the Field of 68 platform, Cart. Enjoy the day.